Thanks for joining me again today on Stand on Guard. This is your host, David Krayden, coming at you live from Ottawa. Thank you so much. And I will be back momentarily to talk about a number of issues. Hope to get into SNC Lavalin and some of the things that are happening on the Hill right now. But we had some breaking news overnight, or at least what looks like breaking news. And I want to explain that to you as soon as possible. Right back.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes, we're doing it live. That can have its challenges, believe me, especially around here. Thanks for watching again. I want to show you a bit of video that came over last night. Now, I'm going to show it to you first, then I'm going to comment on it. And I did not say the video was from the ostrich farm. I said the video was about the ostrich farm. Some people can't seem to understand that. But here we are, and I'm going to show it to you. And before I even show it to you, I want to say this much. Virtually nobody is reposting this on social media. I reached out to a number of people last night. Got no answers at all, including from Katie Pasitney, who was on the show yesterday for almost a whole hour. And I got no response. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to explain why I showed it to you.
Yeah, can you imagine signing up for the RCMP right now? And they're on recruiting drives all over this country. If you look on Facebook, you let them know. You let them know. Okay, I'll give. Yep. Handling all the garbage, no gloves, no nothing, but these birds are dangerous. Yep. That's the officer I talked to earlier. I'm not going to give him any grief. He seemed like a solid guy. So the province of BC is hiding bio-waste. Been to North Korea? Anybody here been to North Korea? Because yeah, I guess North Korea has mountains, doesn't it? Yeah. I guess.
Now, I'm going to show you some more close-ups of that when I get to my X site. But I want to preface it by saying, I don't know who shot this film. I reached out to people, as I said last night, to try to find out whether people thought it was authentic. Here's my take on it. I know it looks like a bad version of the Blair Witch Project, which of course looks like a bad version of anybody filming a scene because the camera is so shaky. But it's so bad that I don't think it's a hoax, because generally when you see hoax videos, they at least try to be technically correct. So what we have here is what looks like the RCMP assisting the CFIA in disposing of vast quantities of waste at the local dump. Bags of waste. Are you telling me the CFIA and the RCMP are producing that much garbage? What's in the bags? What are they putting in the bins? And anybody who is looking at this from a safety perspective is saying, these people don't know how to do this procedure properly. This is unsafe. This could all collapse on them. And if they're disposing of ostriches, let's just say they are. I don't know. There's a couple of scenes here. It appears to be the remains, parts of dead ostriches. If that's what's going on, they are creating a problem. Even if these ostriches are healthy, you can't just dispose of all of these ostriches in a local dump. But the point is, these people don't even think there's any risk to their health by the way they're behaving, by the way they're dressed. So this could be a smoking gun. It could be nothing. But it needs to be assessed and evaluated, and we need answers from the CFIA and the RCMP on this. And I would hope to at least get some answers from the ostrich farm about how they are viewing this video and where they think it came from. Because these people obviously followed the RCMP or the CFIA to the dump and started taking some video from a distance without being seen or spotted. Very interesting. And I will leave it at that for now. But I'm reaching out and saying, if any of you know anything about this video, who put it out there, I know who sent it to me last night. But if you know who produced this, who created this video, who's responsible, is there a cleaner version of it? Is there something that's a little easier to see? Is there more of it? I invite you to help me out, to please assist me in my search, because we're also looking into a number of other things that are going on to affect universal ostrich farms. And I'll get in that for a second, but this is what I'm about to show you is part of a psychological operations, a so-called Psyop. I first heard about Psyops when I was in Bosnia as a public affairs officer. I was posted with the United States Army as an Canadian Air Force officer. And I was taken to a briefing, and I was, for the first time in my career, exposed to what Psyops were. Now, I'm still not at liberty to talk about what those Psyops were in Bosnia due to the National Security Act. However, I can say that Psyops were very active in the military as far back as the mid-90s, and they were interrelated with public affairs, which means media, communications, all of that. And I was a public affairs officer. So that's why I was drawn into this. But I want to show you these two slides here, because this is research my producer did this morning, and it's fantastic. Because Katie, in our conversation yesterday, referred to the fact that she's been the victim of CFIA bots. What is she talking about? Well, put the old glasses on here. This is what she's talking about. And this is what I'd like to find out today. And if any, once again, if any of you have any shortcuts here, if you know who's funding this, who's the TikTok scientist? Why is he getting away with this? These people are literally hacking into Zoom calls that the farm is doing with their friends and supporters, not with the media. I have not been involved in any Zoom calls with the farm, and I'm not aware of anyone else in the media participating in these calls. These are activist supporters. So here's the TikTok scientist. He's got a site up there. Universal Ostrich Farm Exposed. In fact, I was on Facebook the other day and I put in Katie Pasitney. And you know what came up? Not Katie's Facebook page. Universal Ostrich Farm Exposed came up. So there's a synchronicity here between what is going on in social media, what is going on with government forces, and I believe government is funding these sites, possibly through this anti-hate group. I don't have any evidence of that right now, but it seems quite clear. And look at the group activity here. If you look at these three arrows, 121 new posts today, 2.2K total members, created about 3 weeks ago. Now, let's go to the organic support versus the funded support. Suppressed. Even though they've got over 3 times the amount of members, they've got 90 new posts versus 121 posts. 31 fewer posts. Are they being suppressed? You damn right they are. Group activity. There we go here. Again, Universal Ostrich Farms Exposed. They've got 121 posts to 90. I just said this. 2.2K members versus 70K. Created 3 weeks ago. The real McCoy was created 5 months ago. What's going on, folks? This is definitely CFIA bots. And this is what Katie was referring to when we spoke yesterday. And she's talked about this quite a bit. I'm just going to play a brief excerpt from that interview yesterday because it's shocking what she's saying. But I want to find out who is funding these bots. I want to find out what was in those bins. Is the CFIA killing the birds at night? We know there's been the sound of dart guns going on. Why would they just be tranquilizing these birds? For what purpose? It would make more sense in terms of what the CFIA's objectives are if they were using darts containing a lethal substance and killing these birds and then moving the bodies out, the carcasses out. That's what they're doing. Let's listen to Katie for a minute from yesterday.
It's the hardest. It's the division. Ever since Canadian Food Inspection Agency put a social media task force on us, the absolute, well-built the material that's out there that it looks so true. There was so much misinformation, so many lies, and the attacks on many of our personal families, on us, the degrading material that's put out there about us, it is hurtful. It is. And you know what? When you go to the RCMP about all these hate groups that are inciting violence and they're inciting hate and they're just gathering momentum, and there's nothing anybody can do about them. And it is a concern. I mean, what kind of a country do we live in when we allow that to exist? Here we are, we've been doing everything right. And we've been taking the legal process all seriously. And we have handled this, I do believe, with dignity and integrity and respect. And here we are fighting for our agricultural sector policy change that's going to have a ripple effect for our children and our grandchildren. And they're attacking us based off something old, like 4 years ago, I said the wrong word as I learned about the program that we were doing here at the fires. And once again, in the fires, I came and I hunkered down and we were protecting all of our animals. And I said one wrong word in that interview and everybody is just slaughtering me over it because I was learning our program.
I might return to that later. But as I've said to Katie, both privately and publicly, don't worry about the haters. Don't worry about the social media people who are not even influencers, who are saying horrible things about you, your mother, or the farm, or Dave Belinsky. And I've looked at some of these sites. I've looked at some of the information that's going out there. It's not just misinformation. It's not just horrible things being said about her competence. And spend 5 minutes with Katie and you'll realize how incredibly competent, articulate, eloquent, and knowledgeable this woman is. But no, they will choose something she might have said 4 years ago and say, oh, there's evidence that she doesn't have a grip on this issue. She doesn't have a handle on it. or they're putting out scurrilous, and I'm not even going to repeat it, scurrilous anecdotes that are completely fabricated. They're putting out scurrilous accusations about her character, about her morality, and it is obscenely stupid and obscenely unjust. And I am going to help her in any way possible to fight back against these bots. And I want to find out if the federal government is financing them. We need to know that. Now, let's go to my X page because there's more to see there. And I think it's, I know a lot of you are interested in this story. I will be doing more of the parliamentary beat that I, who live in Ottawa, I'm supposed to be doing more of. But this is, as I said, this is not just about an ostrich farm. This is about your freedom and mine. And so let's have a look at my X page here. And here we go. Now here's a scene from Kelowna yesterday. All right. This was a protest against the RCMP, and again, this particular member of Parliament. I had no idea Kelowna had a Liberal member of Parliament. I used to be Stockwell Days riding. So something wrong here, folks. Let's have a look at this.
Just wondering what's happening, and I read in the news and whatnot, but I don't really know truly what's going on, but I'm here to support her.
Basically, what the CFIA is doing wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
Well, the CFIA, they're
Just wondering what's happening, and I read in the news and whatnot, but I don't really know truly what's going on, but I'm here to support her.
basically what the CFIA is doing wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
Well, the CFIA, their job supposedly is to protect us against infectious diseases and all these different things. There was an accusation made against the farm that they might have had whatever. The way that and that was back in December. So what happened was they took tests on 2 dead birds. They did PCR tests. I'm not if you're familiar, but they did 2 PCR tests on dead birds that have been dead for 18 hours. And within 41 minutes of those tests results being sent to, I believe it was Abbotsford, they came back and said the whole farm needs to be culled. Now the problem is the only qualified facility in Canada to make that call is in Windsor. And the test didn't even get over there before they had condemned the whole flock to death. And since then, the family has just been fighting to keep them alive and try to keep them alive. But they've been under quarantine for that whole time, which means the family can't sell anything. They can't do anything. They can't make any money. So they've totally cut off all their sources of income. And now at this point, it appears that there's birds missing. We're trying to do our very best to count the birds, but every single count we have comes up short. Yet there's a stay order in place which should prevent the CFIA from doing anything. So is the CFIA breaking the law? Is the RCMP helping them break the law? We don't know. But we just want to know. That's it. Like if we can get a count on the birds, if we could have got a test on the birds, that would have been nice. But they were threatened with 6 months in jail and $200,000 fine. So, and now, even if they did testing, would it be valid? They've been in their control for 30 days. We have no idea what they may or may not be doing to those animals. So it just seems like a travesty of justice, and this family really did nothing wrong. So, I mean, it kind of pricks your justice nerve, It's like there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And so I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Just good to hear different points of views, too.
Thank you. It's important that young people get involved. Oh, you're not that young, but I mean, like.
Don't tell her that.
But it is important because this is your world, man. I mean, I'm grandfather age.
Yeah, that I think that's a great summation from Jim Kerr. And of course, Jim was the guy who was arrested for feeding the ostriches. It's illegal to feed ostriches in BC. That's what Katie and her mother got arrested for and charged. And they're still trying to get those charges dropped because they were invited by the CFIA to feed the ostriches. So they said, oh, great, we'll come right down and feed the ostriches. Tried to do that. The RCMP immediately arrested them, took them down to the station, and they were gone for about 6 hours. People had no idea what happened to them. But yeah, Jim was also arrested for feeding an ostrich. This is how crazy this province has become, and the country by extension. And, you know, how'd you like to live in an armed camp like that with RCMP at your main gate? They're not even getting mail there or courier service because the couriers won't go past the cops. How do I know? I tried to get something through there, and the courier, they will not allow people through the main gate. We showed this to you yesterday, the warrant to search from CFIA. A lot of people have reposted this. I think this is very significant. Once again, there's anomalies, irregularities with this search warrant. We're not even sure if a real justice of the peace or a judge authorized it. There's no file number, and it expires tomorrow. So I asked Katie yesterday, what are you going to do when the warrant to search expires? And she said, well, it'll automatically be extended. And I'm thinking, what? Why? You've got to challenge that. You've got to challenge that. You can't just say it's automatically going to be extended. But, you know, here's some close-ups of that video. And I put this up last night. Are the RCMP ignoring the Supreme Court of Canada today? What are they dumping at the local British Columbia dump from the ostrich farm in multiple blue bins? These are cops, or they're people dressed up like cops. This looks to be like an ostrich appendage here, but it's so blurry, it's hard to say. But everything that's going on here is suspicious and suspect. And my question is, if this was a hoax put on by the supporters of the ostrich farm, by animal rights activists, who, by the way, we haven't seen any animal rights activists show up at the farm, to my knowledge, nobody from PETA, no spokesperson from PETA like Pamela Anderson, who is from British Columbia and who I know very well from high school. But get a load of this. You know, here they are. And where was this sent last night? Okay, this was sent from Share Aware Canada. I saw this about 9:00 p.m. last night, but they sent it to a bunch of folks who really have very little to do with this story. Check News, that's out of Victoria. I used to deal with Check News when I was the public affairs officer at Comox, 19 Wing Comox. Used to get Check News to the base all the time. I don't even know if they're covering this story. Western Standard, they've done some, but not very much. Epic Times, they might have done a story or two, but they're not fixated on this at all. Mario for the North, I'm sorry, I don't even know who that is. Right Blend, he's done some reporting and he works with Chris Dacey. But once again, Right Blend is not on scene and is not on top of the story. This wasn't even sent to Chris Dacey, who's on scene right now, capturing video. I don't understand why. It wasn't sent to me. Wasn't sent to Rebel News. Wasn't sent to Drea Humphrey. Wasn't sent to Ezra Levant. So I'd like to know why. And by the way, while this is happening, and I wrote a column this morning for Human Events about this, while the government is stealing land in Edgewood, BC, and by the way, Katie and her family might never get reimbursed for any of the losses they're experiencing because they didn't allow the CFIA to do their call early. They challenged this in the court system, and by doing so, they may, and I say may because Katie told me that they had, but I'm going to put it as may. They may have lost their right for reimbursement. So while the government is stealing land in British Columbia, Kootenay, The Lower Mainland is under assault by the Cowichan First Nations band, which is claiming huge tracts of real estate in Richmond, BC, which, of course, if you know Richmond, BC, it's right on the water. This is where some of the finest beach property is. This is some of the most expensive real estate in Canada. And Keith Wilson says 95% of BC's land base is currently subject to unresolved claims of Aboriginal title. I have read and heard it's closer to 110% because there's overlapping land claims. So the whole province basically is being claimed by Indigenous peoples. I'm sorry, Canada is supposed to be a country where there's equality under the law. We have to stop having race-based land systems, race-based hunting and fishing. We have to go back to equality under the law. We all are equal. And if you bought property, it's yours. Nobody is going to take it away because 200 years ago, their ancestors might have occupied it. You can go to any country on the face of the earth, and 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years back, it was owned by somebody else. But we live in the present. We live in the here and now. We don't live in 1400 AD or 1800 AD. We live in 2025, and it's supposed to be a democracy we live in, and private property should be sacrosanct, but it's not any more than free speech is. So I'm fascinated with what's going on here. Yeah. And once again, I put this up many, many times last night. I reached out and I got absolutely no response. And you know what, folks? That bothers me. That bothers me as much as anything would. No response, people ignoring my queries, people not responding. That worries me more than people just getting back to me and saying, okay, it's a fraud or it's a hoax. It's phony. No, they won't say that, but they won't confirm whether it's real or not. But as I've said, I don't think these people have the wherewithal. Yeah, and Odessa Orowitz comments about this Richmond land grab as well, and she's quite right. If you own a house in Richmond, you might be screwed. Absolutely. And I invite you as well to watch my broadcast yesterday with Katie. But here's what I wanted to impress upon you. The people at the ostrich farm who are supporting Katie and her family, they don't have a lot of wherewithal. There's no organization here. This, in fact, is a lot of us have observed about what's going on at this ostrich farm. It's very much like the Freedom Convoy that hit Ottawa 3 years ago. Very much like the Freedom Convoy in terms of it being a populist uprising, in terms of being against government encroachment on basic human and foundational democratic rights. It's very much like the Freedom Convoy in terms of it being a small c conservative, small l libertarian pushback against what the government's trying to do to our country, trying to impose its will. It's very much like the Freedom Convoy because it's about freedom. It's about personal liberty. But it's also like the Freedom Convoy in terms of there being no real organization amongst the supporters there. And people are shooting messages out and left and right on social media. Katie is doing her damnedest to have an organized front of communication, to have a systematic and systemic communications plan, to have targeted messages, to have key messages out there. But she can't control all of the people who are on the farm helping her. Sometimes they're not always helping her. And certainly, it's difficult for one woman and one farm to come against these bots that are clearly getting big-time funding to do what they're doing, to put out post after post after post that is scurrilous, that is inaccurate, that is mendacious, that is shit. Sorry for my language. But that's what she's up against, and it's not easy. and it's not easy. But I don't believe these people could go out and buy the appropriate costumes to put on people to pretend to be RCMP officers or whatever, and then put themselves through an ordeal that is dangerous. That's the other thing. What these people are doing in these videos is clearly dangerous. I'm going to show that video again at the end of the show. But I don't think these people would do that. This is why I'm tending to believe this video is accurate. Now, I'm going to play one more little segment from my interview yesterday with Katie. Then I'm going to show a little about the SNC, because it's very important that we get into this.
We asked to count these animals were being denied. The RCMP put up a drone and they thought that they were helping us because they are here to keep the peace. And right before Thanksgiving weekend, we had them put a drone up. They were going to give us a count. They thought that would help put the family's mind to ease. And what we saw was them get shut down as well by Canadian Food Inspection Agency, saying that they were interfering with an investigation. Now, to my knowledge, with that warrant to search, there's no investigation. This is a slaughter. So I don't understand how this is affecting an investigation. But why can't we count them? Why is the communication so hard between the family and the agency that is on our land with the animals under an interim stay order? Why is there such a communication breakdown? And why is it so hard to ask them to do the proper bedding? Why is it so hard to make sure that the animals are getting fed their 26 5-gallon pails a day of their grain? Why is it so hard to get visuals on that and just some clarification? Why? Why is this agency making it so hard to get the easiest answers?
Are you confident in any way that they will be charged, the CFIA will be charged for animal cruelty?
No, this is an agency that operates above the law. They make their own law and international law, right? They're involved with the World Animal Health Organization, taking the lead and the directives from the World Health Organization, which then is our One Health agenda in the United Nations. And we're not taking the direction, and we're not making the decisions from our federal to the provincial to the municipal levels anymore. And that is another big alarming piece for all Canadians. We need to ask why. Who oversees the Canadian Food Inspection Agency? Why are they making their own rules? Why are they allowed to operate with no oversight? They even go through their own audits. Let's even talk about their audits and their investigation. We have the investigation on just where are the ostriches, and they actually handle their own internal investigation. The RCMP is not really in charge of investigating them. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is in charge of investigating themselves. Could you imagine if we allowed criminals to do that in Canada, that they were in charge of handling their own investigation? I mean, what do you think what's going to happen? So no, I don't know. I don't have faith that there's going to be any charges brought down that there should be. And again, that's the problem. Let's all keep focused on the biggest issues here. And that is this agency's been operating for decades with no oversight. And this is the first time where they've kind of been held accountable and being watched by thousands and thousands of people. People have been watching them break their own policy and their own protocol. People have been watching them not break their own code of conduct, watching them break their own mandates. So what do we do? I mean, it's the age-old question of the day, I think, on this Monday morning. And it is Miracle Monday. I always say it's Manifesting Miracle More Monday. Every day is opportunity to be filled with miracles. But what do we do? What do we do?
All right, let's get back into the scene here. Yes, what do we do, Katie? And that is the question that we need answered. And I think what this video I showed you today, and I'm going to show it again at the end of the show for those of you who didn't see it, this could be the smoking gun that exposes the CFIA for what they really are. Now, I just want to cover a sidebar story here because I find this quite interesting because the SNC Lavalin scandal continues to rear its ugly head, and the RCMP did nothing. How corrupt is our government? Well, it's pretty damn corrupt. Let's have a listen here.
Of the SNC Lavalin scandal, there were a number of players within the PMO, the PCO, and the Ministry of Finance. However, the principal person of interest in the SNC scandal was at all material times the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. How many times in the last 5 years did you interview Justin Trudeau?
He was not interviewed, sir, or Mr. President.
Okay, and why not?
I'll ask Mr. Pasitney, who was leading the investigation, to add a little bit.
In relation to this, what the RCMP conducted as far as for the objective for the review of the matter, what we've done is we've proceeded with a phased approach, which initially we looked at the potential witnesses that could provide some information as far as to precision for the elements of the offense. So we proceeded in this phased approach. As we proceeded, we determined if there was any further investigative steps that
Sergeant,
were warranted given the
Sergeant,
circumstances of the case.
My time is very limited. Why did you not interview the primary person of interest? At the heart of this investigation was Justin Trudeau's political interference for his own personal gain and the gain of SNC Lavalin. I can inform both of you gentlemen that in my over 30 years of experience as a defense counsel and as a Crown attorney, I have never heard of any investigation where there wasn't any attempt, whether they agreed to interview or not, any attempt to interview the person of interest. Was there at least an attempt to interview Justin Trudeau, yes or no?
No.
Did the RCMP obtain all relevant documents to further the investigation, including access to cabinet confidential information, simply seeking a yes or no response?
We were limited with the information that we had access to.
Was that a yes or a no, sir?
I don't know. We didn't know. We don't know. We still don't know to this day all the information that's out there
Thank
because
you.
some was protected.
I'll take that as a no. Despite collecting reams of evidence, including evidence from the Ethics Commissioner and testimony from Jody Wilson-Raybould at committee, why didn't the RCMP exercise its absolute statutory right under the Criminal Code of Canada to obtain a production order and/or search warrant from a justice to obtain those cabinet documents?
We weren't able to acquire or obtain enough information or evidence that would warrant us to obtain a production order.
RCMP spokesperson Christy Veenstra is on record stating that to obtain a search warrant or production order, there must be reasonable grounds to believe that a criminal offense has been committed. The evidence at hand is sufficient to convince a trier of fact. The evidence at hand is insufficient to convince a trier of fact of the alleged offense. Clearly, she is conflating the legal threshold of policing with the Crown Prosecution Service. Both of you, sirs, will agree that your sole responsibility is to determine whether there are reasonable and probable grounds to lay a charge. It is not your mandate to prove the charge beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the independent prosecution service. Would you agree with that?
I agree, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Was obstruction of justice involving Justin Trudeau the only offense you were contemplating in this regard?
No, there's also intimidation of a justice participant.
Thank you. You would agree that the charge of obstruction is a straight indictable offense, meaning there is no limitation period, punishable by 10 years in prison, a very serious offense. You'd agree, sirs, that there is nothing precluding your service from reopening the investigation against Justin Trudeau should new evidence become available, including a release of cabinet confidential information.
I would say, Mr. Chair, with any investigation, when there's new information that arises, yes, we have a look at the investigation itself.
To quell public concern, Justin Trudeau, despite his office, is subject to the full impact and consequences of the Criminal Code of Canada. He is not above the law, correct?
I do believe I said that last time I was in front of the committee. No one's above the law.
In my experience, sirs, homicides have been investigated and prosecuted in lesser time than your service has invested in investigating Justin Trudeau. Is there an overall general reluctance in charging a sitting Prime Minister, yes or no?
I would say to that, Mr. Chair, is that we follow the evidence, and if the evidence warrants charges, we charge.
So there's no general reluctance in charging a sitting prime minister. Is that correct?
If the appropriate evidence is available.
Thank you.
There you have Larry Brock, great inquisitor, great interrogator, Conservative Party member of Parliament. The RCMP will never investigate Justin Trudeau any more than they'll ever investigate Mark Carney, no matter what he does, because the RCMP leadership, the upper echelon of that national police force, is in the pocket of the Liberal Party. I'm sorry. Pierre Poilievre called him disgraceful. He's sort of backing away from that. Don't back away from that. Show some guts, show some balls, and continue to maintain that, because it's the truth. Now, here's, there has been no real attempt to investigate the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, on obstruction of justice or anything else. And there is pushback now coming from all quarters to do that. It's not going to happen. The RCMP, then or now, who wore it best? Who's more in the pocket of the Liberal government? And it's astounding to me that this has continued. I'm going to show you a bit more of Katie Pasitney's remarks about the CFIA bots, and we'll be back with some more.
Vaccine. I said, yeah, we vaccinated our animals. We did not vaccinate our animals. I learned the process through the scientists, and it was an antigen that was given to the hens, and there was a one protein of the virus to then pretend make up a sequence to.
So here she is clearing up a misconception that a lot of people have been out there on social media saying, how dare you say your ostriches developed herd immunity when you vaccinated your ostriches? And Katie has completely clarified that.
Mimic whatever virus we want to give them an antigen for. So it's a pretend virus sequence that makes the hen then go into an autoimmune response, developing amazing, beautiful, robust antibodies that we can then use for human and animal welfare, protecting our children's future, grandchildren's future, and then it pushes us away from the vaccine reliance. But that one word has caused so much anguish and so much distraction over what we're really fighting for here.
And when I talk to Katie, I see a woman who's completely idealistic, completely committed to animal welfare and to discovering antibodies that might save huge quantities of the human race and might save us all a lot of money on vaccination. And she's being completely misrepresented by segments of social media who can't be bothered to look up from their navels. Now, I'll be back in a minute. I want to show that video, that shock footage, and I'm going to point some things out when I show it. So don't go away. I just want to show you the merchandise. I'll be right back. Please have a look at our store, have a look at our merchandise. I'm not wearing it today. I got to start wearing it again. A lot of people remarked that they liked seeing me wear the merchandise. And well, maybe I'll put the hat on for the rest of the show. How's that? I think, Put the hat on for the rest of the show. You can have one of these. It's in the store. Want to explain something here about what Katie was talking about with the CFIA bots. These are people who, of course, are bought and paid for by the agency that is putting out their propaganda. I believe it's the federal government, and I believe we're going to prove that because we showed that during the Freedom Convoy. The federal government was spending money, spending your tax dollars, putting out information against Tamara Leach, against Chris Barber, against a lot of the Freedom Convoy organizers, and about the Freedom Convoy in general, saying that they had links to, militias. Right, we don't have any militias in Canada. God knows they couldn't arm themselves if we had them. But they put out a lot of BS, and these were paid bots, and the government of Canada was funding at least one of the major ones. But here's an incident I can recall from the Freedom Convoy, because when I was following it from literally the moment the trucks entered Ottawa. And as the trucks were coming across the country, they were using a social media device called Zello. I'd never heard of it, but apparently truckers were using it very extensively at that time. It was almost like the internet version of the CB radio. You remember the Citizens Band radio? We got a convoy. Well, Zello was like that. And they were all using Zello to communicate back and forth. And the kids were on it, and it was wonderful. And the kids were on it saying, go truckers, we just love you. Then one day, there started to be an invasion of hackers who were putting all kinds of references and actual imagery at some point of of PORN. I'm going to spell it out because I can't say the word. I get in trouble for it. And that shut down the Zello. So they were no longer being able to use that. And that, of course, is exactly what seems to be happening here. I've got to tell you this. I just got a message here from my producer. It says Blake Roberts filmed it on October 1st. He was at the Kelowna protest yesterday. I watched it live October 1st, so it's not fake, referring to the video I'm about to show you. Did you all hear that? This has literally just been handed to me because we have been reaching out to all kinds of folks on social media. Once again, this is from Laurie Prostebi. So yes, this is a real person. It says Blake Roberts filmed it October 1st. He was at the Kelowna protest yesterday. I'm going to repeat this. I watched it live October 1st, so it's not fake. Thank you so much for that. That is significant. I show this to you again because this is incredible.
Yeah. Can you imagine signing up for the RCMP right now?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of folks are saying from the 31 to 35 second mark, it's very significant. It looks like ostrich.
And they're on recruiting drives all over this country. If you look on Facebook, you let them know. You let them know. Okay, I'll give. Yep. Handling all the garbage, no gloves, no nothing, but these birds are dangerous. Yep. That's the officer I talked to earlier. I'm not going to give him any grief. He seemed like a solid guy. So the province of BC is hiding biowaste. Been to North Korea? Anybody here been to North Korea? Because yeah, I guess North Korea has mountains, doesn't it? Yeah. I guess.
So once again, I'm going to repeat this. Just received confirmation that this video is not fake, according to somebody who says they know who filmed it. And I just revealed that a minute ago, and they were there. And it was filmed on October 1st. Apparently was not released until October 16th and then released again until last night. But this could be the smoking gun that ends the authoritarian rule of the CFIA, not only on one farm, but against farmers across Canada. We're going to continue to fight back. I want to share this with Katie as soon as possible because I think this is significant, extremely significant. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm going to be back tomorrow with all the news you need to know, at least all the news about the ostrich farm. We'll continue to expand our information, though, in the next few days. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. God bless you. God bless Canada. And we'll be back with more tomorrow and perhaps even this afternoon. If I can get more information on this, I will be back this afternoon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.